Names are a funny thing. They're how we identify people, objects, and even ourselves. They're a way of vocalizing someone or something's identity, yet we often take them for granted, especially in fiction. It's quite common for writers to just name a character whatever first pops into their head, or at best make a vague allusion to some other well known fictional icon. However, most names have meanings, and I find that looking into those meanings can offer an extra layer of insight to a character, from their role in their story to their personality. Welcome to What's in a Name, where we discuss the etymology behind our favorite fictional characters. Today's episode, Byleth, from Fire Emblem Three Houses. Byleth is the protagonist of Fire Emblem Three Houses, although you could make the argument that they're more so a deuteragonist in three of the game's four routes. Following the trend of pseudo-self-inserts that has been a staple of this series since Awakening, though you could make the argument it began a bit earlier than that, Byleth can technically be named anything that you desire. As is common in voice-acted games with renameable main characters, nobody ever directly explicitly says the MC's name in their voice lines, opting instead to use vague terminology like professor or occasionally something else. However, Nintendo and Intelligent Systems still saw fit to give the character a canon name for the sake of simplicity, and that name is Byleth. In the previous two Fire Emblem games, the main characters, Robin and Corrin, were given names that could be considered gender ambiguous, on account of the fact that the players could make the MC male or female. Where those two can be easily identified as fairly common names, however, Byleth is certainly a little more unique. As it happens, Byleth is actually the name of a demon in the Ars Goetia, also pronounced Byleth, Byleth, or Byleth. Information about the demon's powers and appearance seem to vary from source to source, but many seem to agree that Byleth the demon rides upon a pale horse and is among the more difficult lords of hell to command. Any seeking to do so must face the demon with unwavering courage. In Three Houses, Byleth is known across the continent of Fodlan as the Ashen Demon, a title they received for their ferocity on the battlefield. Nearly unrivaled with the blade, Byleth was known for cutting down foes while showing not an ounce of emotion, no remorse, hatred, or sympathy toward their enemies. This gave many the impression that Byleth was something inhuman, and they weren't entirely wrong. But ironically, those who gave Byleth the Ashen Demon title got it reversed. This mercenary wasn't possessed by something demonic, but divine. As we find out through Gerald's diary and some exposition in the Silver Snow route, Byleth was effectively stillborn. They should have perished at birth, but Rhea intervened, implanting the crest stone from the Sword of the Creator into the babe's heart. This was done not only to save the child's life, but also to make them a vessel for Sothis, whose bones were used to create the sword. This effectively made Byleth into something of a zombie. They literally grew up without a heartbeat, animated entirely by the power of the goddess flowing through their veins. It's little wonder why Byleth seemed to possess little in the way of thoughts or feelings, and the fact that they practically grew up on the battlefield probably didn't help. The parallels with Byleth being referred to as a demon are rather obvious, but the fact that they were specifically named after a demon that only the most courageous could stand up to works well with the infamous reputation they got throughout Fodlan. Even other mercenary companies dreaded going up against the Ashen Demon. However, Byleth may not be named for the demon's ferocity alone. According to some myths, Ham, the son of Noah from the Bible, invoked the demon Byleth after the Great Flood to write a book on mathematics. This actually parallels nicely with Byleth's role as a teacher in Three Houses, instructing students on a variety of topics. Mostly combat related, but we can probably assume the Officers Academy has more normal subject as part of the curriculum as well, even if we don't really get to see it in the game. There also seems to be a common consensus that anyone trying to summon the demon Byleth must wear a silver ring on the middle finger of their left hand. This one might be a little bit of a stretch, but you could certainly make an argument that this is a reference to Gerald's engagement ring, which Byleth gives to their chosen partner at the end of the game, unless you choose not to marry. The ring is certainly silver, at the very least. As a whole, Byleth is a name with a surprising degree of depth to it. Named after a lord of hell, but housing the power of a goddess, the protagonist of Three Houses is ultimately more human than anything at their core. This mercenary turned teacher has struck a chord within not just the FE fanbase, but the gaming community as a whole. When most hear the name Byleth these days, they're probably more likely to think of the Fire Emblem character than the demon they're named after. In that sense, the professor has really taken the name and made it their own.